It's time for another edition of Around the Nest 2.0. It's episode 6, views from the 6th episode. Tyler from Vancouver, your host, and with my co-hosts, we've got Pat from Buffalo and Toronto. We've got Tyler from AA New Hampshire and Low A Dunedin, none other than Andrew. And we're going to start right away getting into it because the DJs have a double header today. AT, welcome back to the Nest. Always good to have you. First and foremost, we got you from the clubhouse in Lakeland last week. Where might you be on this edition of Around the Nest?
I am in my nondescript office today. It's good to be home, that's for sure. But we're certainly in those days of Florida where it's just going to look like it's going to rain every day, all day, and then you just hope it doesn't.
That is life in the Sunshine State. It's kind of a misnomer here. Whoever decided to call Florida the Sunshine State, they didn't necessarily try and sell you the full bill of goods, but we're making do. And in part, that's why you've got a double dip today. So you're going to have to dash early. So let's get right to it. Before we talk about individual prospects and individual performances, just give us your 30,000 foot view of what the last week of DJs baseball has been. The DJs 7-3 in their last 10.
Yeah. When I thought about it, you look at kind of coming into the season, we had a lot of guys drafted in 2020 or undrafted free agents or guys coming over from the Dominican Summer League. And it was just kind of a mashup of people that really haven't been in the organization long or just haven't played together much. And I think when you get to levels like obviously AA, AAA, and even high A, the players have been together a lot. And I think at the beginning of the year, you kind of think this group isn't meshing as well. And I think now that we're into the second month of the season, you can really feel the group starting to get along with each other, starting to learn each other's personalities. And I think now that that's happening, and also the pitching and hitting's coming together, that's when we're starting to get the wins. And I think that's kind of the feeling that I'm having in the clubhouse right now. And I think that's leading to success.
Are there any guys that you could target from your vantage point? Of course, we're not allowed in the clubhouse quite the same way as in seasons past, but we're still able to be around. Are you able to share who might be some of those locker room guys who might be the proverbial straw that stirs the drink?
Yeah, I think you look at a guy like Zach Britton, who transitioning from an outfield position back to catcher from Louisville. And he had a week off just to help a hamstring issue. And he's really been sitting with the catchers, telling them what he's seeing, and even just sitting with the hitters. Because, I mean, the guy's on a 26 or 25 game on base streak to start his career. So I think he's seen a thing or two at the plate that he can help out with. So I think he's been able to sit around with the players, show them what he's seeing. And he's got the college experience where you have a lot of guys who might be out of high school or might be from the DSL. So he's been a great asset. And I think a guy like Harry Ray, obviously won the national championship in 2019 with the Vandy boys. So I think he brings a lot of experience to the team as well.
Let's get right to our O update. It's a weekly edition on Around the Nest. Can you tell us what's been happening with Aurelvis Martinez? I had a chance to look at the Low A Southeast League leaderboard, and he leads the league in RBI for players not suiting up for the Tampa Tarpons. In fact, they've got 4 guys at the top of that list. So forget those darn Yankees. Let's tell us about Aurelvis Martinez and what he's been doing at the Dish this week.
Yeah, I'm just not sure how much longer he's going to be here. I hope he's here a lot longer, but he literally just keeps hitting. And he keeps finding ways to get on base. Every ball he hits seems to be hit hard. And I mean, it's just what you expect, Leon. Like, he's putting up these crazy numbers. Last week, he had a great week, hit a home run. He just likes to admire. Can't blame him when he can hit it that far. And he just, at this point, you just expect it out of him because he's just that good.
Let the kids play, as the saying goes these days. And Aurelvis certainly a kid and playing quite well. Looking forward to the eventuality, it sounds like, AT. He's going to be joining us with Advanced A Vancouver sooner rather than later. So I've got my red pen out, ready to circle him on the roster and being excited for his arrival here in the High A West. Now, before we let you go, because you got that double dip today for the DJs taking on Clearwater, can you tell us a little bit about Mackenzie Miller? Is it Miller or is it Mueller? Does he go with the more German pronunciation, or first of all, how does he pronounce it? Second of all, what's he been doing so well lately?
He prefers Mac Mueller.
Mac Mueller. Okay, yeah. We'll practice that.
So yeah, he's still been struggling a little bit, and I think he'll even admit that himself. But when he's making that contact now, it's hard contact. Even throughout the month of May, he kind of had a Danny Jansen syndrome. I know Danny Jansen has like one of the toughest wobas around, and he's starting to get into that, hitting the ball hard, just it's getting caught. So now the ball is just getting over the fence, hitting absolute line drive missiles out of the park these days, and it's been great to see. It's one of those guys that you root for, undrafted out of Baylor. So it's just exciting to see him play well. I think you also look at Leo Jimenez. He got hurt the other day because he got hit by his 12th pitch of the season, which is second in all of minor league baseball behind Brett Cumberland with 13. So maybe he'll catch him tonight. We'll see. But he's on a 8-game on-base streak, 6-game hitting streak. So he's playing well. Harry Ray's starting that. He was playing well at the beginning of the month of May. Then he got hurt, got hit in the head with a fastball. Not great, out with a concussion. Came back a couple weeks ago, still trying to get back in the rhythm. And then he hit 2 home runs back-to-back 2 nights ago. So he's another guy that's really starting to figure it out. And the team's just coming together. It's exciting to see. We're going to talk about St. Lucie, going to St. Lucie. We'll see how that goes. Unfortunately, I won't be on the trip. I'm actually shipping up to Buffalo to help out our compadres in Toronto. So it'll be exciting to be up there.
2 things I want to shout you out for. First of all, our first WOBA drop on Around the Nest 2.0. So thank you for going there. Leave it up to AT to drop a little advanced analytics on us. So we love it for that. It's where the game is going. So thank you for that. And you dropped the compadre. I just hear compadre and I think of the Daddies in San Diego. That's my hometown team. So I appreciate the compadre love. What exactly are they going to have you doing up there in the Empire State?
Just be an extra helping hand, I believe.
A body.
Maybe get to chat with my friends Adam and Rodney on the communication side of things, but literally there to just help out anywhere I can. So I'm excited.
Well, Andrew, let's quickly touch on the series coming up against St. Lucie and then get you ready for your double dip, the true pro that you are, still finding a way to land in the nest for a quick DJ's update before getting back to your actual job. So looking ahead, St. Lucie taking on those guys next week. Anything you're circling in that series that we can look ahead to and perhaps tune in?
Yeah, it's going to be a 2-week road trip for us, so our longest road trip of the season. So we'll see how the guys do. Sem pitches tonight. Sem's been great lately, so seeing how he keeps doing. Rafael Ohashi, another guy, an 18-year-old in the low A league, seeing how he keeps performing, and really hoping that Noah Syndergaard is off that St. Lucie roster finally at some point before we get there. They have a ton of rehabbers. I think Familia is also on their roster right now. So maybe those rehabbers will leave by the time we get over there.
Maybe you'll have a chance to go viral with a tweet, kind of like the Cardinals did over there in Palm Beach. That always sticks it in the crawl when those Cardinals find a way to go viral, at least for me and maybe for Tyler Murray as well from our days sharing the load on the social media side for New Hampshire. AT, thanks for the time, especially given the doubleheader today. We know you got a dash, so we'll say goodbye for now, but looking forward to those DJs staying hot, climbing the rankings in the low A Southeast, and we'll talk to you next week for episode 7.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.
That's Andrew from Low A Dunedin, and we'll go all the way to the top of the ladder. Pat from Buffalo, and not just Buffalo. He's got the Blue Jays update coming to us from a soggy Rochester Frontier Field. Pat, welcome to the nest. Happy Friday. Good to have you back. What's the latest around not just the Bisons, but the vibes at Salem Field as well?
Yeah, unfortunately, with the 3-game sweep by the Yankees this week, it was a much different situation this year at Salem Field than it was last year, where the Blue Jays were clinching a playoff spot against New York and, feeling really good. And the Yankees came to town, and unfortunately, some miscues on the diamond and the base paths led to a really tough series for the Blue Jays. But, a chance now to get back at it against a team in the AL East and, really pick up some wins, because going into the series right around 500, now below it, I'm sure the team definitely feels they should have won 1 or 2 of those games of the 3. And, getting Baltimore next week in Buffalo after playing the Orioles this weekend, chance to really pick up a few victories and start feeling really good again, now that hopefully some players are going to get healthy and the injury bug has come up. And that was one thing, whether it was CJ Edwards or Rafael Dolis. There were a couple of situations where the pitching staff is just really taxed right now. And that's leading to a lot of different tough situations for the Blue Jays.
I'm curious to know, were you already in Rochester when that triple play took place, or were you at Salem Field to witness, unfortunately, what was the wrong end of an odd play for Toronto?
Yeah, I was at the game, and I'm pretty sure I'll see Andrew in a couple of days when he comes up this way. I help out with the line score during the games. So It's my job to, watch the game as intently as I can. And it's something that we've seen here at AAA a lot, unfortunately, over the last couple of years, and something I talked to Bobby Meacham quite a bit about in 2019. And it just seems like base running mistakes and even just defensively, this isn't unique to whether it was the Bisons, the Blue Jays. I think this is something we see a lot in baseball, is players really not necessarily having the awareness that we've come to know in the past. And I think that's one thing where, if you get a situation, if two guys stand on the base, only one can be out. And that's, whether it was Bo running back to second or to third, he was kind of caught in no man's land. So, just knowing the situational plays and situations that come up, I think really is something that young players have to figure out on the fly and make those mistakes so that they can learn from them in the future. So yeah, it was definitely one of those plays where you sit there and you never expect a triple play in that situation with runners on second and third and a comebacker to the mound. So tough play, but I think it's one the Blue Jays are going to learn from. And I think that, it was a chance they had the lead after that too. So it wasn't as if the Blue Jays kind of wilted and faded away immediately in the first inning. They had plenty of opportunities after that.
You live by the youth. Sometimes you die by the youth as well. And we're all here for the youth movement in the Blue Jays system. And just sometimes you have to pay for having players who might not be quite as experienced as a more veteran lineup. And interestingly enough, it was Vladdy who was the one who started that triple play, hitting one of the shortest balls of his season. We're so used to him going 440, 450, 470, exit velos north of 102 miles per hour just about every time. From your point of view, what has Vlad continued to do? I think it's easy for us to be able to watch and see this is the guy that they've always been talking about. He's really finally coming into his own. They've made so much about the weight loss and the conditioning and the flexibility, him continuing to do the splits. I don't know how he does it. Makes me hurt when he does it, but he's able to do it with no injury. What have you liked from Vladdy? Maybe something that you can't just see from watching highlights.
I think it's just the preparation, and that hasn't changed. And I think that's something that we all saw, the power, the ability, like you just laid out perfectly, of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. But it's the behind the scenes work that he puts in that hasn't changed. And maybe once you get to the big leagues, there are some players that decide to change their habits a little bit and get away from what got them there. But I don't see that being the case with Vladdy at all. And for him to continue the preparations the way he did, and just his ability to go in the cage for a couple of minutes, get his swings in, and get to batting practice and get his regular work in like normal. I think that's a testament to him, and, moving positions from third to first, and, moving around in the last year or two, and not changing the way he gets prepared for a game. I think that's something that you can be taken for granted. Now, obviously, I'm not around the clubhouse in a big league setting to know exactly what he does to get ready for a game, but just the things that you see before the gates open and before batting practice starts are the things that we saw here in AAA. I'm sure you saw in AA as well. And those are hallmarks of a player that, even though he has the abilities and he's going to be able to play well, even if he just goes up there and just gets into the lineup, but it's the extra things that he does that makes him that special player more often than not.
Let's transition to AAA Buffalo and do so with our friend George Springer, who has been making a rehab appearance with the Bisons, though you tell us that he's not in the lineup tonight. It's certainly been a disappointing year so far for Springer and the Blue Jays. Obviously, tons of fanfare when he was signed. Seems like a perfect fit, but just got to be healthy. You can't make any sort of contribution on the field when you're not in the lineup due to an injury. What's going on with George from your point of view, Pat, and what can we expect in terms of perhaps where he might be in his rehab assignment? Obviously, you're not in the clubhouse. You're not talking to the trainer the same way, but what sort of inside information can you provide on George Springer before we talk about some of those Bisons regulars?
I think this was just a matter of Springer getting reps in, only playing in 4 games over the first 2 months plus of the season. It's just a matter of getting your timing down, whether it be at the plate, which we saw he picked up a hit and then an RBI yesterday. So he has a couple of hits in his 12 plate appearances. That's just something that you have to really get back into the swing of things. And then, just seeing live balls off the bat. Excuse me, Tyler. Sorry about that. Live video. So, just getting that opportunity to play the outfield and testing the quad out again and making sure that that's okay. So Just those little things that you have to do over the course of 2 months in order to be ready for game action. I think for him, maybe get a couple of more games in here in Rochester this weekend, get back in the lineup tomorrow, have the day of rest today, just after playing 3 straight days, 2 at center field, 1 as the DH, take a day, make sure everything checks out. And that was one of the nice things, making the best of the situation. Here being in Rochester, you're about an hour and a half away from Buffalo. So whether it was maybe somebody from the front office being able to be here in Rochester and yesterday see the game in Rochester and then go back to Buffalo and be in Buffalo for the night game with the Yankees, this has been an easy rehab assignment for Springer in that respect, and get back to lineup tomorrow, maybe play again on Sunday, another night game followed by a day game. So getting back to regular game action so that once he gets back into the Blue Jays lineup, maybe against Miami, maybe in Buffalo against Baltimore next week, that he doesn't have to work on a few of those things.
Just scary to think about a healthy George Springer added to that potent Blue Jays lineup already and for years to come. Certainly so many things to be excited about at the highest level in the system. Talking about some of the Bisons regulars who have continued to produce, Kevin Smith, he is having himself a reestablishment, if you will, as a top 30 prospect, a guy who at one point I believe was in the top 10. Obviously that had fallen a little bit after that disappointing 2019 in New Hampshire. I'm going to blame the New England weather for that. But for Kevin Smith, batting just shy of 300, I think I saw after last night, maybe around 287, continues to have that power that was so highly regarded coming out of Maryland and in the system in the early days of his pro career. Kevin Smith, tell us about KS.
He has had a great month of June to help his season really springboard to that next level. And even though the pitching staff had a lot of changes, the offense and the defense behind the starting pitcher hasn't really changed at all. 373 batting average over this month so far for Kevin Smith is really an accomplishment. So, getting in at AAA and getting a month under his belt at right around 225-ish in the first month, but then coming back now nearly 400 and having multi-hit performances in 5 games here in the month already out of 15. And RBIs have been coming quite easily for Smith. It's just been an easy progression at the plate. And, we talked about it in one of the previous podcasts, and what would not playing in 2020 really look like and translate here in 2021. And the offense took a little while to catch up to the pitching, but once it did, I think a lot of these Bison hitters, Kevin Smith right at the top of that list, Colin Large, another one, Logan Warmoth had a good start, but really just picked it up a little bit here in June. They've been the nucleus that really have helped this Bisons team, and they've been just right around 500 here in the month of June. They played some tough competition, but offensively, they've put up some pretty good numbers.
Definitely an Empire State of Mind for the East Greenbush, New York native, playing back in his home state and continuing to make those incredible improvements that back in 2019, we saw him play and thought to ourselves, gosh, is this going to be it for Kevin Smith? But it's so good to see him figure it out and suddenly looking like the big leaguer that he knows he is, and he can hopefully rise to that occasion sooner rather than later. Pat, before we say goodbye to you, and because Andrew's already bailed, I know you got a lot of work to do as well, so feel free to step away and continue your work today up there in Rochester. But before we say goodbye, TJ Zoik, this is a guy who has big league experience, is back in AAA, and we know what kind of pitcher he can be. We had Greg Caserta, of course, one of our members of the Nest, who's not able to be here today, saying a couple of episodes ago, he'd like to see TJ Zoik have a little more angst on the mound, maybe a little more, I'm going to go get these guys, instead of being that calm, cool cucumber, if you will, that he seems to be since he started his pro career coming out of Pitt. So for you, TJ Zoik, if you were to sort of make a prescription as to what he might need to work on or what you might see has been the issue for TJ, where can he go from here?
Well, I think he's at maybe a crossroads. And I say that only because we've seen him as a starting pitcher in AAA and throughout the minors and the big leagues. But I really think the biggest need for the Blue Jays going forward for TJ Zoik to be successful is that long relief situation. Be one of those guys that just can be relied upon. Him, maybe Anthony Kay is another one who you look going forward. You've got your left-hander out of the bullpen. You've got your righty that if you need them to eat innings, you can. To me, last night is a good example for TJ Zoik, where I like his demeanor on the mound. Throws the ball away, and in the first inning, bases are loaded. The Yankees have an opportunity. the ball is kind of being kicked around a little bit, errors for the Blue Jays. They're making mistakes. The game doesn't get away from them. TJ settles down, and it wasn't a dominant performance against the Yankees, but it was one that kept them in the game on the mound. And I think that's for TJ. If he can take that mentality and bring that to the bullpen for the Blue Jays, I think that's a very important position of need in the bullpen for Toronto. And going forward, maybe that's the best spot for him. And I don't think that's a slight to him, but because I look at what is the best possibility to make TJ successful in the big leagues, and being a 3-inning guy from the right side, and Anthony Kay maybe being a 3-inning guy from the left side, are the best uses of them in the Blue Jays pitching staff, because you've seen some of the arms, whether it be Alek Manoah, taking major leagues by storm in his first real full season of baseball. And you've got a couple of other guys that have free agent wise have signed and have worked their way in the rotation. So for TJ, I think it's just a matter of finding that spot that's going to make him most successful. To me, that's a long relief role. And going forward, I'd like to see the Blue Jays maybe use him in that and see if that can be a recipe for success.
And no disrespect to the uniforms of the Bisons and the Thunder, I think TJ Zoik looks a lot better in Blue Jays blue and white. So let's keep him in Toronto. Let's keep him at Salem Field. Let's keep him with the big league club, and perhaps makes that transition. I think that you very smartly referenced there, Pat. Well, you know what? As always, we love your updates. Thank you for doing double duty today, the big leaguers and the AAA Bisons, as you continue your work in Rochester at Frontier Field. Make sure that rain stays away. There have been too many rainouts and postponements and suspensions for the Bisons over the last couple of weeks. So stay dry. And thanks as always, Pat. We really appreciate your time.
Great to catch up, Tyler. I promise not to sneeze the next time I'm on Around the Nest. So have a great day, guys.
Cheers, Pat. We do it live here on the broadcast and on the podcast. And speaking of doing it live, let's go down to AA New Hampshire, none other than the lieutenant himself, Tyler Murray. Welcome back. And do we have a Bob Lippman sighting in the booth as well, or did he already die? There he is, the
Bob's
dynamic
here.
duo, Bob and Tyler. Happy Friday from the Tooth in downtown Manchester, Delta Dental Stadium.
Yeah, happy Friday to you. You made the do it live reference. I went to the same school as the guy who coined that phrase. Bob went to the same school as the guy who is tearing it up, Austin Martin, this year. So it's all connected. It's all connected on the Nest. Good to be with you.
Let's talk a little bit about what the last week has been like for New Hampshire. I think there was some great and there was some not so great. A 4-game winning streak, that's a season high, but some unfortunate games against Hartford. Last night's loss, you got that 6-run inning to kind of make it a more respectable game, but I believe it was 10-0 after maybe 5 innings or so. And then you had the doubleheader that, my goodness, obviously we don't get into this business to work 9 to 5, but when you're playing 2 games that go over 7 hours, not the best day at the office.
The good news is any game after a doubleheader feels like it's maybe 30 minutes. So it took 3 hours and 9 minutes yesterday. Yeah, you're right, 10-6 after 6 innings, but Brock Lundquist 2-run single in the 7th, and then Gabriel Moreno a grand slam to make it 10-6. And Moreno is kind of developing that Kevin Biggio gene we noticed in 2018. He's leading the league in batting average, 374. 6 home runs, that's about middle of the road. Samad Taylor, his teammate, leads the league with 11, but his home runs are all pretty big ones. They're coming at important times. And I think Biggio, we calculated like 3/4 of his home runs here were either game tying home runs, go ahead home runs, or to bring the team within 1. So it's something Moreno has continued to do. And it's no longer surprising when he comes through in a big spot, like bases loaded, 2 outs with a chance to make it a ball game. And so he did.
I'm glad you went there first, because that's where I wanted to go next. Gabriel Moreno, Otto Lopez, Samad Taylor, and drumroll, please, Vinny Capra, the pride of the Richmond Spiders. All of those guys hitting well above 300 entering today. So for you, can you touch a little bit? You talked about Moreno already, but those other 3 guys, what have you liked from Lopez, from Taylor? We talked about his home runs last week and his stolen bases. And Vinny Capra on a team where the prospects are certainly all over the field and you're pretty much the bottom guy on the depth chart. He is making good on those opportunities.
Yeah, Capra, he doesn't have enough at-bats to qualify. Actually took about a week plus off just to be careful with a leg injury. We've seen some re-aggravated things this year, maybe not rushing guys back, but just you need to be a little careful with the long layoff with injuries. So they were taking it slow with Vinny. I don't think he ever hit the injured list, but not enough at-bats to qualify for the top 10. And I only bring that up because there are only 10 hitters in the AA Northeast League with averages over 300. The Fisher Cats have 3 of them. It's 3 of the top 6, actually. Moreno's number 1, Otto Lopez number 2 at 344, and then Samad Taylor, who you can make a case for MVP right now, league leader in home runs and stolen bases and a 308 batting average. I mean, it's impressive. And these are guys you can't shift against. These are guys who you have to rush your throws from the infield. They can really move. Bob told me yesterday, I was talking to some scouts, and each and every one of them were surprised with how quickly Moreno got down the first baseline. It was a 4.2, I think, for a catcher. And we've seen him steal some bases this year. He stole home on the double steal of second and home plate. So his raw talent, Gabriel Moreno, it's not just the hitting. He's a freakish athlete at the catching position. So he continues to be a revelation.
Curious to know what it's been like having big league and minor league journeyman Johnny Barbado part of the fun with New Hampshire. Yesterday, certainly not an outing he'd like to remember, but other than that, he's been pretty solid in what has been a short stint with the Blue Jays system thus far after being signed just a little bit ago by Toronto as a minor league free agent. What have you seen from Johnny Barbado, a guy who has had success at the big league level? And I would venture to guess, this is just an assumption, so we'll see if it goes correctly, the oldest guy on the New Hampshire roster?
I think we had James Dykstra was 30 years old, and right now he's on the injured list, but oldest active player, I believe, 28. And yeah, Yankees 2016, and then Pirates 17, Tigers 18, then pitched in Japan. So what a journey to bring him back here stateside. And he's a guy who says he throws everything, all kinds of pitches. He throws them all for strikes. Yesterday he found too many barrels of the bat. He had back-to-back hit by pitches, led to a little bit of trouble in the middle innings. But it's fun to kind of see. You remember back here, and I think it was 2017, Zick, a lot of hype about the rotation, but the guys were so young. We're seeing 98 on the radar gun every night, but a lot of walks. Guys like Johnny Barbado, I think, are good to show that you don't have to throw crazy velocity to get outs. We've seen it from Zach Lode this year, who gets his well-deserved call up to AAA. And Simeon Woods Richardson, who we always talk about, he's just 20. And the best part about him is he already seems to realize that you don't need to throw 98 to get outs, certainly in AA. So Barbado, I think, is a good measuring stick for something like that.
Before I talk about what's happening at Delta Dental Stadium tonight, with arguably one of the coolest giveaways in all of minor league baseball this year, although I am slightly biased with a personal connection, we'll get there in a moment. Any guys who might be scuffling a little bit? You mentioned Brock Lundquist. He was a guy who certainly had a slow start to the year in his return to AA, then went deep. But are there any guys who maybe have been scuffling and are poised for a breakout here in the second half of June?
Let's talk about Demi Oramaloye. I mean, just a terrific all-around athlete. He's got speed, but the power he's shown in the past, double-digit home runs the last couple of years. No long balls yet, but he's starting to hit for contact a lot better. He was at 175 batting average about a week ago, then went on a little 3-game hitting streak with a 3-hit game in Portland in the series finale. 2 hits yesterday. He's hitting the ball hard. Oramaloye has that, I don't want to say it's an overlong swing, but it's one of those where if he can square it up, I mean, it's going for days. So we've been impressed with his talent. He had a really good throw from right field that beat a runner trying to score, but the tag was a little bit up the body, so the leg came in, so we didn't get the outfield assist, but just you can see the potential with a guy like Demi Oramaloye. So lately, the consistency and the hitting for average has come around, and I'd expect that batting average to continue rising above the Mendoza line.
All right, the giveaway tonight. It's Comic-Con night on the shores of the Merrimack, and I think across the system, one of the best all-around dudes to come through the Jays minor league system and now make an impact at the big league level is none other than Jonathan Davis. We love JD, and tonight, I bet it's 1,000 lucky fans, or is it 1,500? Did the Cats splurge and get an extra 500 of a Jonathan Davis superhero catch bobblehead giveaway? Jonathan Davis is our version of Clark Kent, and he is immortalized in bobblehead form, cape and all, making one of his incredible highlight reel catches.
Don't worry about the number of bobbleheads given away. Everyone's going to get one, okay? They're going to get them. But we're excited to finally roll that one out. You were part of the brain trust that brought that to life in 2019. Jonathan Day, we love the guy. I mean, he's on paternity leave right now, so congratulations to him and the family. One of our Fisher Cat staff members went down to Fenway over the weekend, got a great picture with JD through the net. So, I mean, he's always been a part of our Fisher Cats family, came back for a charity event a couple of years ago, winning the Community Service Award. So just a guy who we're proud to have him so high in Fisher Cats history, not just because his character, but he's a champion. He hit the first cycle in team history. He's been on SportsCenter more than maybe anyone in team history because of his catches. He's what you love about following the careers of these minor leaguers and rooting them on as they play in the bigs.
And we want to quickly say thank you to the Portland Sea Dogs back in 2018 for assisting with both of those cycles, first for Jonathan Davis and then John Birdie. My goodness, we all love John Birdie doing his thing for the Marlins these days. LT, before I pass you the torch, if you don't mind grilling me about Vancouver today, I can always go on my monologue. Want to ask you what's ahead for New Hampshire as this series with Hartford wraps up this week. And is the Plymouth Rock Assurance Cup still a thing?
The Plymouth Rock Assurance Cup lives on in spirit, Zick. And our rivalry with Hartford needs no corporate partnership attached to it, in my opinion.
So true.
But yes, so far so good for the Goats, unfortunately, with the rivalry here. I mean, we'll never forget. What was it, 2018? The Cats went 11-0 on the road at Dunkin' Donuts Ballpark?
Yeah, that was Delta Dental Stadium South for that entire season.
Exactly.
And I remember skipper John Schneider, of course, now a major league coach with Toronto, and another guy who took a through the net selfie with a certain front office staffer who I'm sure said, want to thank you after that photo was taken. He would tell me coming onto the bus, leaving Dunkin' Donuts Park, we always say, this is our house. We own this place. We love donuts and we love to play here. So it's certainly nice to open that ballpark in style for New Hampshire. Tyler Murray, as always, appreciate you. And did I cut you off? What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to transition into my questions for you, but
I love that. He's a true pro, folks. He's a true pro.
I just remember Forrest Wall. I think he got traded that year, right? He walked from the home clubhouse at the Dunk to the Fisher Cats. He was like, all right, now we're in business, you know?
Yeah, he knew what was up. He knew what was cooking. Certainly a big factor in that playoff run too. And I think about that hit he had, I think in Akron, late in that game one. And then from there, never say, never said, because the boys, they took it in 6 consecutive games from the semifinals to the finals that year. Gosh, it feels like forever ago. And I have to shout you out. I'm glad you brought up Forrest Wall. The tweet when he came over, do you remember? You posted something on the Fisher Cats Twitter that was literally one of those wall stickers, almost like a fat head, but not sports related, of a forest on a wall. That's the kind of humor that you get from Tyler Murray and on Cats social media. You can't teach that.
Yeah, it was, I think for like an office with no windows, feel like you're outside with this forest wall. It's just Google. Zick, it's just Google. It's nothing special. Thank you for that. But let's talk C's, my guy.
Okay, let's do.
Because Donnie Murphy, he's got the magic formula out there. And we have a good time talking about D Murph, but the team early on, we were wondering if it was going to be a rough year for the C's, but things have really turned around. They're finding ways to win this year.
Yeah, one of the rosters in the system that had the least amount of top 30 prospects. In fact, just 3 to start the year and now only 2. So to consider what Donnie Murphy has done with this group, not saying that these guys are slouches. Please don't take it that way. I just think Donnie Murphy is a first-year manager. You never know what you're going to get. Of course, we had him in New Hampshire in 2019, had a chance to see what he was all about. He's been in the system as a coach since 2016, so he has certainly a great feel for what the Blue Jays way is all about. And right now, Vancouver enters today tied for the league lead in wins. They're 23-16. A half game back of first place Eugene, who had a rain out to go 23-15. And the C's will take on the Emeralds down at PK Park there on the campus of the University of Oregon next week. So an opportunity for Vancouver to continue their tests against some of the best teams in the circuit. And they took their second consecutive game against Everett last night, one of the most potent offenses, not just in the league or in advanced day, but in all of minor league baseball as a team. You know, I could guess, but I've got the stats right here in front of me. The Aqua Sox together batting a robust 262. And that's after a night last night where they got a little bit held behind by some terrific pitching from reliever Adrian Hernandez, which we'll touch on in just a little bit. But from the start, Donnie has set the tone. He's not a guy who's certainly a conversationalist like a John Schneider, more of a guy who leads by example. He was a big league grinder for 9 years. And in our conversations to start the season, he was telling us that that's what he's trying to impart to these guys. It's going to be about the fundamentals, doing the little things right. He had the guys out here yesterday working on, balls hit in the gap, working on cutoffs and trailers and things of that nature. So he keeps it simple, and it's clearly working because this team finds ways to win, whether it's with 16 runs on 18 hits, or you're doing it with 2 hits and winning in a shutout, getting great pitching one day, then the bats show up the next day. whatever he's got cooking down there in the clubhouse, the boys are eating it, and they're eating good.
And it's interesting. You mentioned him as a hitting coach and then promoted to manager. Blue Jays have kind of shown the ability to identify good hitting coaches they like and give them leadership roles. Hunter Mentz comes to mind, minor league hitting coordinator. You look at the last few years, how much offensive talent has come through the minors and is now making a real impact with the big league club. But with the pitching lately, I know that's a concern for a lot of Blue Jays fans. The back end of the bullpen, is there any help coming? Maybe a long way off, but you said it, Adrian Hernandez had a really good relief outing and extended bullpen time yesterday.
It was scary good. It was one of those moments where you're watching it happen and you're thinking to yourself, is this guy supposed to be here? Well, he was in low A Dunedin just a week and a half ago, and now through 3 outings has yet to allow an earned run or a run of any sort. So he went 5 hitless innings against these high-powered Everett Aqua Sox and did so with just 2 walks and set a new single-game high for a reliever with 9 punch-outs. That's the second most, along with C.J. Van Eyck, who punched out 9 Hillsborough hops last month, by any pitcher in a game. Tonight starter Luis Quinones got 11 in his first, make it his second start of the year, and tonight will be his 4th. So for Adrian Hernandez, doesn't throw hard. It's 86 to 88, but he has a changeup that unlike I've ever seen. It looks more like a knuckle curve, but it is truly a changeup. It comes at you in such a way that guys are going back to the dugout for Everett last night. Our visiting clubhouse manager came up and was sharing some insights from his experience in the dugout. The guys were baffled. They were flummoxed. They had no idea how to hit this guy. And so for Hernandez to put up those 5 innings, gosh, I could see him being successful at the start of a game by having an opportunity to keep hitters off balance. And then you transition to maybe a harder throwing right or left-hander to keep those guys off balance in a different way. So for Adrian Hernandez, just so great to see. 21 years old out of Sinaloa, Mexico, and a guy who I am looking forward to watching for as long as we get him to make 2 separate promotions in the same season for a guy who's just 21 and relatively new to his professional career. I would be somewhat surprised if he made it to Double-A New Hampshire this year, but when he continues to pitch like he does last night with that impressive changeup that is Trevor Hoffman-esque. I grew up watching, of course, that Bugs Bunny change at Jack Murphy Stadium in San Diego in the 90s. And for Hernandez, it's shades of the Hall of Famer. Obviously, it's way too early to have that conversation, but certainly looking forward to whenever Adrian gets in the game next.
I like where this is going. Let's stay with pitching. CJ Van Eyck's been good lately. Adam Kloffenstein, someone we always want to get an update on. How are those 2 starting pitchers doing?
Right. So Van Eyck, he earned his 2nd consecutive win. He's now got 2 wins as a pro after his draft last year out of Florida State. And a guy who seems to really be coming into his own. I think there was some pressure to perform really well out of the gate in what is your first full pro season after last year's cancellation. So he didn't get any taste of professional action until this year. And we saw 1 great start against the Hops. His very first start, I don't think he made it out of the 1st or 2nd inning. So that was obviously frustrating, but it was the early goings. And so last time out a couple of nights ago, looked really good against Everett, 5 strong innings in which he gave up just 1 earned run and was really nice all over the count. Not afraid to throw that CJ Van Eyck curveball for a first pitch strike. And when he's able to locate that breaking ball to get ahead and stay ahead, pretty much it's Van Eyck's night every night when that happens. Obviously, being consistent is what it's about at this level here in Advanced A, and still honing some of those things that made you good enough to get drafted or get signed. Then you get to the upper minors, and now you have an opportunity to develop some other stuff and really focus up on those things that have gotten you to that bottleneck in the upper minors of Double-A and Triple-A. So CJ Van Eyck, for me, quickly rocketing up the depth chart, if you will, in the starting rotation as the number 10 Blue Jays prospect. And for Adam Kloffenstein, last night, the team put up 6 runs in the first and another 2 in the second to go up 8-1 after 2 innings. So we were told that Kloff, after having a strong first where he gave up a runner on a walk, but then got the next 3 guys out, he was working on stuff last night. So that's how he kind of ended up giving up 5 runs over 4 innings pitched. I think it was 6 strikeouts with 3 walks. And there were some moments where he really gets down on himself, not in a bad way, but he has high expectations for his performance. He obviously wants to do it for himself, but he is a team guy, not something you might expect from a top prospect who got big money as a high schooler and is just 20 years old. But I had a chance to chat with him on Sunday in Spokane off to the side of the dugout during batting practice. And I came away thinking like, wow, he is mature beyond his years on the field and also off, and he really gets it. He understands that he's got a long career ahead of him if things continue to go as planned. He's got to trust his talent, and he also has to trust his teammates and not try to do too much. So despite giving up those 5 earned runs in last night's 4-inning pitching performance, certainly a guy that we are continuing to feel really good about. And this was on the heels of getting a win in Spokane last Saturday. So for Kloffenstein to feel comfortable enough to be able to work on some things on the mound and not be scared to really try and make some mistakes and fail so you can get better and learn what works and what doesn't when your team has that big of a lead. I think that says a lot about how he approaches the game and comes to it from a studious perspective that I think is going to pay dividends this year and beyond.
All right, last question then. Let's go to the offense. Two-parter again. Sebastian Espino, not a guy we've heard a lot about, but he's been on fire, right? I mean, he was a waiver claim last year from the Mets, called up from Dunedin last month, and he's on a tear. And then it sounds like just collectively, the power numbers are on the uptick too for the season.
That's right. You know, Sebastian Espino enters today batting .315 in his first 16 games, and a guy who, though doesn't look it, really puts a lot of solid contact on there, though you get a little closer to him. And he's a guy I also had a chance to chat with on Sunday during BP. A lot bigger when you're next to him than maybe seeing him in the press box. So he's got a home run on the year, finds ways to drive in runs. He's batting north of 300 with runners in scoring position as well. And he has been a great asset. He plays third base. We've seen him in left field. He's been a designated hitter, and I'm sure he could be slotted in at shortstop or second base as well. So a really good pickup for Toronto. Who am I to say if pickups are good or not, just based on anything other than what we see on the field? But from what we've seen here in Vancouver, certainly a guy that might be a surprise going forward. And interesting that you've got Santiago Espinal and Sebastian Espino in the system, two guys with similar sounding names and similar, let's call it, approaches and, for lack of a better term, aesthetic out there on the field. A little bit slighter guys, but guys who have some sneaky pop, go gap to gap, and can do it all over the field on defense as well. So Sebastian Espino has certainly been a part of that recent power surge. 17 home runs over the first 34 games of the season for Vancouver. And let me count back in my brain real quick. In the last 5, there have been 5 or 6 homers. So nice to see the power surge kind of coming back. Last night, Rafael Lantigua, a light-hitting infielder, turned on a pitch for a 2-run homer as part of that 6-run first inning in the win over Everett yesterday, and also had a homer for Tanner Kerwer, the leadoff man. We talked about him last week. He's the pride of Sherwood Park, Alberta, outside of Edmonton, and a guy who not only leads the league in steals, but leads the season homers. So Samad Taylor-esque, and it's always nice when you got your leadoff man able to come up and put some runs on the board with one swing. So he has been a joy to watch and really enjoying the top 6 hitters of the lineup that are pretty much solid for Donnie Murphy day in and day out. It's Tanner Kerwer, Phil Clark, the catcher from Vanderbilt, or Tanner Morris, who is a second baseman who played at Virginia. Then in the third spot, it's always Cameron Eden. Spencer Horwitz is the cleanup man. And then batting 5th and 6th, it's the shortstop Luis De Los Santos and catcher first baseman Ryan Gold, who are interchangeable. And Gold and De Los Santos, team leaders in doubles, Gold and De Los Santos on the league leaderboard in that category, and also 2 guys who are run producers who are considered one of the best in the circuit as well. So top to bottom, left to right, Donnie Murphy's Canadians. It has been a fun season thus far, and tonight the boys will look for win number 24, taking on those Aqua Sox in what will be, hard to believe, the 40th game of the year. My goodness, it is already mid to late June, and tonight game 40 for Vancouver. So certainly looking forward to another good one as we do it on CanadiansBaseball.com and Sportsnet. Love saying that.
And do we have time for your new segment idea this week, Sick? I mean,
I love that you tossed to it, LT, though I think given the fact that it's just down to TNT, Dynamite, as we've always been since 2017 when it was established. I'll never forget the day you met me on Prospect Street, picking me up from my halfway house where I was rooming. That's a story for another episode. But yeah, next week. I think what we can do is we can save that so when our nest is completely full, I'll come more prepared as well. I got the family in town this week for Father's Day weekend as well. So I will be more prepared to have all these secret questions and, not trying to play gotcha. I'm no political reporter, but certainly trying to have some fun and maybe keep everybody on their toes. So we'll save that segment for next week. But before we say goodbye, does Bob Lippman have a Stetson Hatters update for us?
Yeah, Bob, how's Jacob deGrom and Corey Kluber? We always talk Stetson. Zick always gives us a hard time about it. Nothing?
deGrom is great.
Yeah. Well, shoulder soreness.
No, he's all right.
No, he's good?
Yeah, he'll be fine.
Well, the update, collegiate baseball-wise, anchor down from my guy, Bob Lippman.
Anchored down indeed. My goodness. Well, no better time to say goodbye than with a couple of words from Bob Lippman. So we thank Bob for he's good. Jacob deGrom. We love it. Wow. Another issue and edition of Around the Nest 2.0 is in the can. And my goodness, we did so Maybe not in record time today, because whenever you get the two Tylers together, we could talk all day, and we do via text, but this time doing so on the podcast. And LT, before we say goodbye, any parting shots, any last digs you might want to get on some of our departed members of the nest, including big leaguer Greg Caserta? I've got my family in town too, but I'm going to slug Greg for a second. Greg, you can't log in from the rumpus room at your family house?
Well, I was glad to listen back to the interview last week. Really well done to hear about Greg's journey. So that was very cool. Yeah, man, take a week off. He debuted in the show, give him some time. I'm okay with it. But we'll hopefully see Greg next week.
We'll let it slide. The big leaguer indeed. And on Comic-Con night tonight at the Tooth there in downtown Manchester, all I have to say is this: in the pool. It's nice and cool. If you get that reference,
we're playing plenty of Lord of Rings. My
guy, my legacy has been left behind. That's Tyler Murray from AA New Hampshire. I'm Tyler Zickel from the Vancouver Canadians. And for our producer, Leo Mui, and our co-hosts on the Nest who had to go do their real jobs, that's Pat from AAA Buffalo and the Big League Club as well, doing double duty. And to AT, Andrew Thriffiley down there in Low A, Dunedin, getting ready for a doubleheader any minute. It's been another edition of Around the Nest. We'll see you next week right here on Around the Nest 2.0.